question and answer period that Cindy Atlee and I are doing today for entrepreneurs who want to fall in love with their marketing and fall in love with the way that they bring business to their business. So very briefly, I'm going to introduce myself, and then I will let Cindy introduce herself. I'm Dana Theus. I'm the founder of InPower Coaching, and I've really been fascinated with the power of transformation my whole life. And you'll see as we go through this video why transformation is important to me, but even more importantly, how it's become critical to my business and to my enjoyment of my business. So when I first started working with the materials that we're about to show you here, my business was kind of struggling a little bit. And as I started to work with this process that Cindy and I are going to talk about, I began to really not only fall in love with my business, which I always was in love with, but marketing my business and selling my business. And I became sort of enthusiastic in a way I never had before. And it brought me a whole new level of success. So Cindy's really done the major work to pull this together into a system and into sort of steps that we're going to share with you today. So I'd like her to introduce herself, and then we'll go into the presentation. And I'll give you a few admin details before we dive in. But Cindy, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay. Well, I like introducing ourselves based on where you started, which was kind of fascination, which is what got me to being here today. So what I've always been fascinated with is stories and how people really identify with different characters in them. We're all drawn to different storylines and to different types that we encounter in the stories and to different plot lines. And over my branding career, I started noticing that who and how we related to stories was who and how we related to people we were interested in doing business with, products we were interested in buying. And I took a bunch of training in a system that I then turned into something that entrepreneurs can use. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, the system for how entrepreneurs, consultants, coaches, whatever field you're in, can use this as a system that really helps them market and gives them a place to start. Because we know that one of the biggest challenges out there is, I've got a business, where do I even start? And you don't start with the tactics, you start with the strategy, and we're going to come up with some tips for you on how these strategies can make it a lot more fun, as Dana said, and also how it can make it a lot easier, which is another big plus.
Yeah, and I have to say too that part of the reason I love this system is when I first started, my business was marketing. I was helping other people market, and I thought I knew everything about marketing, and I did actually know a lot about marketing and all those things, but I was still struggling. And the reason I love Cindy's system so much, I don't do marketing anymore. Now I do leadership development and personal transformation for career success. But as I started working with these materials, I realized they are personal development that actually manifests in marketing, effectiveness. Yeah. Which is really what most of us in an entrepreneurial role are looking for and want.
Right.
So, I took all my marketing knowledge and kind of went, wow, this worked, this pulls it all together and makes it really something authentic to me, which is why I'm so excited about it. Yeah. Before we dive in, we're going to go through some slides, and then we'll come back to the video a little bit. We'll do Q&A in the middle. We'll do Q&A at the end. I wanted to let you know that if you can see a little participation chat box in the corner here, go ahead and type us something, because we're not sure it's working. Google gave us an error message, so it may or may not be working. But you can email me. My email address is right there, Dana@InPowerCoaching.com. I have my email up right here, and I'll be able to answer any of your questions. And if you're on the video recording, you can email me, and I will answer your questions as well.
Yeah.
We have some questions already via email. We also have some questions from some other folks who had seen some of these materials before, so we've already got some Q&A lined up. But go ahead and send in more, as we're going through live, and then we will take questions as we go. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and dive into the slides because we really want to share with you some of the key concepts that are behind this revolutionary system that Cindy is working with. And if there's one thing that Cindy and I have really noticed about working with entrepreneurs and being entrepreneurs all this time is that most of us have a lot more passion for the work we do than for actually going out and selling it. And a lot of my personal coaching work with entrepreneurs and others is with women. We don't like talking about ourselves. We don't like promoting ourselves. We don't like selling ourselves. And that makes it really hard to sell our business, because so much of our business is, ourselves and the value that we bring to the table. So it wouldn't be surprising to us if most of the people on this call have that kind of hesitation about promoting yourself and promoting your business and feel uncomfortable with that. And what we want to talk to you about is an approach that's not only a viable marketing approach, it's very viable, as Cindy has used with major brands and major organizations all over the world, but it also is really authentic and personal from a personal branding standpoint, which is what we entrepreneurs really need. So it's our hope that you'll find this inspiring and sort of delving into your authenticity in a way that's going to make you excited about really reaching out and starting to market your business more successfully. And you'll find that the approach that we're taking really will become a foundation for all of your marketing, for all of your communications. And in my case, it was truly transformative. And we've heard from a number of people who've gone through these materials as well, that it can be truly transformative. One other administrative note I wanted to mention is that you all got an invitation to take the PBSI survey that gives you your primary archetype. If you haven't, on the page where this video is showing, there's a link to go take it. You can still watch this video even if you haven't taken it yet, and you'll still get a lot of value out of it, and we encourage you to go take it as soon as the video is finished, because it really is very insightful. I think you'll enjoy it and find it insightful, but it also helps you bring some of the concepts we're talking about here kind of to life. So with that, in terms of like what we're talking about, how to really crystallize and get your unique value succinctly stated in a way that gets you excited, let me turn it over to Cindy and let her talk a little bit about the system and what it's about.
Okay, thanks, Dana. So let's start with kind of these 3 tips that I think are the most important things you all can do to really start yourself down a messaging path forward, if you will, instead of looking around for what first. So really the very, very first tip is this idea of starting with who you are. And I realized how tough that is for people as I talk with more and more consultants and business owners and coaches who are trying to develop their marketing materials. The kind of comment I kept getting whenever I talked to people about this was, well, I got to figure out a better job, a better way of telling people what I do or describing what I do. And, that's actually because I hate to say it, but what you do may not be all that interesting. So, like, even think about me. So I'm a branding coach and a consultant. So what do? I help people develop strategies. I help people come up with ideas for how they can talk about themselves. I help people turn those into graphics, maybe. And that's okay. Maybe you need that, but it's not very exciting. And a whole bunch of other people do exactly what I do. So a few of you might have a really unique niche that if I just hear about it, I want it. But for the most part, you're in a business category where there are a lot of people doing the same thing. And who you are, the passion that you bring to it, the role you're playing, is so much more compelling than talking about what you do. So that's where you need to start first. When I tell people that I'm a passionate consultant who's all about helping you bring your best self to life in the world and how you can express yourself in ways that inspire other people. That's a lot. I seem more alive, I'm sure, than I say, well, I can help you come up with some messages. So we're going to really talk about how you can do that as we go along here. The next thing is it's actually not enough to just decide who you are and get really passionate about that. You've still got to weave it into what feels like a storyline, because who you are has to make a promise to somebody else that they want you to fulfill in order to do business with you. That's like the happy ending of a story. So there's a framework for how you can turn this idea of who you are, how you're different, and what you have to offer into a framework that matters to somebody else, because it does have to matter to somebody. And then finally, when you know how to do all that, you can align yourself with, you can change your products and services based on this storyline and this idea. Dana might talk a little bit about what that meant for her. Messages, materials, it becomes like a guidance system for you, which is what really, really helps. So, in fact, I think what Dana's going to do now is talk a little bit about how she worked her way through all of these steps, and also why she couldn't just stop at step number one, because she kind of had step number one almost nailed before she even started thinking about a whole system here. So, Dana, what would you like to share with the folks here?
So I want to talk about my bad hair day. It really wasn't a bad hair day. My hair was fine. But it was a bad day, and it was a day where I really woke up to how out of alignment I was. Because like Cindy said in the previous slide, 1, 2, 3, the first thing you kind of have to do is, get solid on who you are. And I was real clear on that. And even in the context, even though I hadn't taken the PBSI instrument to find out what my archetype was, when I did, I was not surprised. I was a magician. I had even named my company Mages. Because I knew about this magician energy I had and how important transformation was to me. So I was kind of clear on number one. And when I took the PVSI, I'm like, yep, that's it. It nailed me. I was good on that. But what I hadn't done and didn't realize until the day I lost this client, how badly I had done this, was I hadn't really aligned myself and that energy in my business, and in particular with how I talked about my business. And so what happened was, there was this day I lost this big client. And the short version of the story here is basically that I was working with a government contractor. They had very transformational approaches and strategies to the consulting they did. So that was very aligned with who I was as a magician in my business as well. And we had done this contract, and we were presenting our final results to the client. And I was all excited. I was going to go in and give them a proposal to how to, or results from our study that would show them how to kind of transform their whole leadership strategy and structure in their business. And I'm talking about it. I'm all excited to the decision maker. Everything was wonderful, and it totally fell flat. And it turned out she was kind of afraid of transformation. And in fact, she didn't really want transformation. And we didn't get the follow-on business, and I was kind of crushed. But when I went back and really deconstructed what was going on, I realized in the proposal we'd given her, in all of the billing we had done to her, all the marketing, we hadn't really talked about transformation. We hadn't talked about the potential that my recommendation was bringing to her. We gave her what we thought she wanted to hear, not what we, and I in particular, really had to give uniquely to that process. So it was out of alignment. What I was proposing to the world and what I was delivering was out of alignment, because I was proposing it in a way I thought they wanted to hear it. I was afraid to sort of put myself, my magician self, out in my marketing materials. And when I looked back on it and looked back through my career successes, every one of them was where I was not afraid, where I put that fear aside and I just said, nope, we're going to do transformation. And even though it was bumpy sometimes with some people, I was still successful. So that was the moment I woke up and I said, wow, how I'm marketing myself and who I am and what my unique value is out of alignment. And that was also when I began to realize my brand, my Magus brand, really wasn't infused with this energy that I had to bring to the table. And so that was when I started through some of the steps that we're going to talk about now, and that Cindy really helped me kind of see, was how to bring that alignment, not just between what I said I did, my marketing and what I delivered, but the passion and the energy behind it too, with who I really was. So that was when things started to click. But I had to have that bad day and lose that client and see how out of alignment I was for me to figure out it was time to bring it into alignment. So,
Dana, before you move on to the next slide, I want to add something about that. So there's always a chance that what this thing you have to offer is not in fact what the client wants. Not everybody is going to buy transformation. Not everybody is going to buy inspired expression. Not everybody is going to buy the thing that we're going to get you to as being, it for you. But you want to know what attract clients who want that, because that's when you're going to do your best work. You can't get every client. So not only do you have to really tell the story, you have to understand that there are perfect clients for you who are going to get it. And if you try to be all things to all people, you just end up doing kind of a half-baked job for people that isn't based on the thing that's best about you. So we're going to get into that a little bit too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say with respect to that particular client, I felt that because I made decent money for that one engagement, but I didn't get a referral, like follow-on business. At the end of the day, I would rather have known up front that she didn't want what I had to deliver and not spent my time and her money on that contract, because it wasn't my best work as a referral. So
yeah, lots of pieces to this. We want to help you get great clients and express yourself in a way that anybody who might be open to your message is likely to hear it. That's what's really important. If you hide yourself, they may not even know that's what you stood for in the first place. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
So let's go back. I'm done with my bad hair day here.
Oh, yeah. Bad hair day over. We'll talk a little bit more about where she went next. I think what we want everybody to do right now is just stop for a minute and think about where you guys are yourself with your brand. So, there's kind of three places you tend to be. You can either be, hey, maybe you guys have already got a brand and messages and you just want to build on that and you're really super energized right now. That's a great thing. More often we find that people are kind of in Camp B, that you have some messages, but maybe not a real brand, which, it kind of puts you in neutral, not very revved up or charged up. And then a whole bunch of folks are in, the C camp, where something comes up, they have to talk about their business, they reinvent it again, and they end up getting pretty exhausted. So just, make a note right now for yourself of where you are, because it's important to know, how much energy do you need to charge the system at this moment. So pick that and think about it as we go through the rest of this webinar, and maybe see if you can move yourself to the next stage. I don't know if I can get you ultra energized, but maybe so. So Dana, going back to you, look, it's pretty obvious when people are exhausted, right? We also think being in neutral is not very much fun. But I sense that you were kind of in neutral at the point in the story you're at right now. It's not like you had no marketing or no messages at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a coming to reckoning moment, and I went back and I looked at all of my marketing material, and again, I was a professional marketer for 15 years, so I looked at it and I said, wow, it looks like what I think people want to buy, but I kind of realized it was all a bunch of industry buzzwords that I thought people wanted to hear, and I realized how much I was hiding myself in my marketing and how little passion there was in it. And the real irony, I'm just going to show you this slide because it made me laugh.
It's a good slide.
Exactly. I felt like the no magic magician. So here I was, my kind of archetypal energy was a magician's energy. I wanted to help people transform their businesses, help them transform themselves. And yet when I read my marketing, even though the word transformation was in it, the energy of transformation was not in it.
Right.
And that's when I began to, I think that's when you and I really started talking, and I began to realize.
Yeah.
Yeah, I began to realize, well, wait a minute, the energy is more important than the words. The energy is more important than, the pictures even, although pictures express an awful lot of energy. We're going to show you some later of another person's, their brand visuals and the kind of energy that comes out of that, as well as some of the ones that Cindy and I had. But it's this energy that's really important, and I just began to realize, wow, I'm the no magic magician, right? There's none of the energy that I really wanted
right
to be coming through my marketing materials, and that's when you and I started talking, and I began to understand, not just intellectually, but beyond intellectually, how important this process is, and how important it was to dig in and understand my magician.
Yeah.
Unique in my market.
Yeah, we did get you away from that sad little bunny pretty fast, as I remember. But But so what I'm interested in, and I know the people listening are interested in, let's back up a little bit and talk about how an actual story played into your discovery process. Because most people, you already knew you were a magician. Most people don't actually, so they're going to be looking for clues. I mean, we've those of you who have taken the PVSI, got a score that tells you the name of a story. We're going to talk a little bit more about whether that particular one is even the right one for you. But can you share a little bit about like how do you know you're a magician? How do the people on this call understand that inside themselves?
Excellent question. And, I do remember one of the first conversations we had about this, because you and I knew each other for a long time, but it was during this time, that we started talking about. One of the first questions you asked me was, well, what's your favorite movie?
That's right, I did.
Right. And actually, so I'm going to tell the story of what my favorite movie is and how it became so integral to my brand. And I would challenge everybody on the call here right now, go ahead and think, what's your favorite movie? Like, of all time, the one that if you were on a desert island and you only had one movie, you really would want to watch over and over and over again. Go ahead and write it down. And feel free to, share it with us via email as well, because we always find that fascinating.
Yes, it's great to see, yeah.
It is. So Cindy asked me, well, so I knew I was a magician, but I didn't even know that was relevant yet. But I did have, my company name was Magus. And so Cindy said, what's your favorite movie? And I said, well, my favorite movie is Star Wars. And
right.
We started talking about it, and I began, this was where I began to realize that my magician, and not everybody's is like this, is, it's about the internal force connecting with the external force. So the concept of the force in Star Wars was really what excited me. I mean, I love the action and the adventure and the fantasy too, but it was the idea of the force that excited me. And even when I was 13 years old and walked out of the film, I just dated myself, and walked out of the film, and what I began to notice over the next few months was it wasn't just me who was enamored of this idea of the force, right? We all started wearing buttons, may the force be with you. People would talk about the force, this idea of the force, this universal energy, this power that we all have inside of us really was resonating with everybody, and particularly with me. And so years later, so fast forward a million years to when Cindy and I are having this conversation.
Right.
And, I began to put things together in my own mind about, well, what is my story? So I love Star Wars and I love the Force, but, how has that already resonated through everything I've done? So, like, when I was at Career Builder and when I was doing a lot of other internet businesses early on, the thing that it was exciting me was this ability for technology to reach in and let people tap into this power they had and reach the whole world with it, and reach across continents with it, and help other people in other places see the potential and the power within them. And as I started to really develop that concept, the idea of InPower, the word InPower, the brand InPower, began to express that. So even though my magician was all about transformation, and we talked about Star Wars and the Force, and those things were kind of fun. But as I began to think about, well, let me think about my market. Who are the people that need leadership development? Who are the people that want to turn personal development into professional success? What are the words that might reach them with this energy that I felt as early as Star Wars when I was 13 years old? And over the process that Cindy teaches, and that in many ways is traditional marketing wisdom, but applied with this kind of new idea of how do you take this archetypal thinking and infuse it into typical marketing. I came out with InPower, and what's been amazing to me, so here you can see on the right, some of the imagery from my sites and my logos, and you can see that it has become a comprehensive visual thing. When you read my materials, I hope, you also see that this idea of internal power, internal capability, cracking the code on personal power is a new tagline I'm working with, resonating well. What's fascinating to me is everyone I talk to, people look at my business cards, 70% of them cock their heads and go, wow, I like that. Just looking at the logo. I got in a cab once with a CEO that I wanted to meet from a conference because we were both going to the airport. We exchanged cards. He goes, InPower, I like that. I want to know more. I mean, it was like, it was communicating that energy that I wanted to get out into the world. And that was really an aha for me because, like I had known I was the magician, I knew I was about transformation, but until I went through the process of funneling that through this marketing system to turn that energy into actual marketing materials.
Yeah, that's different.
It is different, and I had already created marketing materials, but I hadn't created the ones that really were resonant. So this process allowed me to do that, and it was a real aha for me. And what I love about this process, too, is that everybody who goes through it has a completely different experience. So
That's right, yeah.
Let Cindy tell her story, because as you can see, Cindy's story looks and feels very different.
Yeah, it does. So I'll even go back all the way to when I was a kid, because we talked about movies being a clue. Your whole life journey is a clue, and what kind of the impulse you had sometimes going back to your earliest days has a lot to do with where you should be going with the brand today. So I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to be a novelist when I was growing up. And then I noticed that there were no ads in the you could not apply for novelist anywhere. So I became a journalist, and that was pretty fun. You know, I was a music reviewer. I actually interviewed Jimmy Buffett in a bowling alley. I mean, that was fun. But I was never home at night. This was, you know, rock and roll writer wasn't probably gonna buy me a house anytime soon. So I wanted something steadier. I took a job as a corporate copywriter. And one day the marketing manager quit, and the CEO said, well, do you want to do that job? And I said, sure. I'm still not entirely sure why they hired me, but there I was, right? So I've always been really good at reinventing myself. And my favorite stories are definitely movies, stories, books about reinvention. And after a while, I moved over to the ad agency side. I got to do some very cool things there, too. I helped introduce IKEA to the United States. I branded Fresh Feels, for those of you who remember them, before they sold out to Whole Foods. Well, Dina and I met when I was working to help roll out the early days of Career Builder. So there were lots of interesting things I got to do. But there came a point when I got to what I consider the first of many midlife crises, which is when I started wondering, okay, am I just helping people sell stuff? It was good stuff. But I got fascinated at about that point with this idea of archetypes and narrative structure. I met Carol Pearson, who's written a number of books on the topic, and we'll talk about her in a minute. I got really fascinated with not just what was going on out in the marketplace that needed to be appealed to, but what was going on for the people inside organizations and for, you know, kind of inside the psyche of people who wanted to start businesses, you know, that started to look like storylines. And I kind of realized, wow, I'm really about helping people express, you know, find their best self and express it. And, you know, you can see my materials up there. So I was introduced to the archetypal system and decided to use it to create a brand for myself. And that's where I got this idea that, you know, it's all about finding and unleashing your voice. It's about using your best self to inspire other people. And I'm a very strong creator archetype. You can see I've got, you know, hobbies of mine include painting and writing poetry. You know, all that stuff always has been there. How does it apply to the business world? Well, it applies a lot. If people want to come alive and express themselves, you know, I'm definitely your gal. And I still use this same system, by the way, that we're talking about, you know, with big companies. It's been used by Kashi, Meals on Wheels of America, NASA. Lots of people use this in consulting work I do with them, but applying it with entrepreneurs and consultants works even better because you guys have all the control in the world over who you are and how you want to talk about it. So that's kind of what got me to developing this into more of a system and tools. And so that's kind of the story.
Let me just say too, Cindy, that one of the things that I love about the system and enjoy working with you about is, like, so I'm a strong magician. I have a very high creator score.
Yes, you are, yeah.
And I think you have a very high magician score, right?
I do. Yeah, that's probably why we love each other.
Exactly. But what's interesting, working as we've worked with other entrepreneurs in the system, is that you know, so every creator is different. Every gesture is different. Every explorer is different.
Absolutely.
And we'll show you some stories later about how a lover goes into business. You know, it is absolutely fascinating. And what I love most, I don't think I've even ever told you this, is like we talk about story, but we're not talking about storytelling in the traditional sense.
That's right, yeah.
Take storytelling elsewhere. This is about the story you're living, about the character you are. And even though we talk about happy endings, you know, we are all living this story. So I've got to watch Cindy's creator come alive.
Yeah.
She's watched my magician evolve, you know,
That's right.
from mages to InPower. It's just fascinating because we are living these stories. So I just had to put that in there.
It's where the juice is that draws other people in. So let's be clear about this. You know, it's great fun for us to be living our story, and these stories are what, you know, living into these ideas about ourselves is what allows us to passionately express things that other people are going to find interesting about us. But why don't we go on to the next slide and give you guys a turn? So here's what you see.
By the way, I wanted to mention, we got an email from Jacques who said he's a sage. It's Jacques or Jackie, I'm not sure. And his or her favorite movies are Out of Africa, The Wizard of Oz, and March of the Wooden Soldiers. What do you I'm wondering what they're looking at all these going, what am I? I'm a sage, but there's a lot more going on than just sage.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not familiar with March of the Wooden Soldiers, so I'd have to, you know, when we're doing courses with people, we actually kind of deconstruct what it is about a particular story that resonates so much. What was the second movie you listed, Dana?
Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, well, so of course the Wizard of Oz is about a wizard. Now, it's about a lot of things, so we'd have to have a conversation with Jock or Jackie, whoever that turned out to be, to find out if what attracts them about that movie is kind of the magic and wonder of it. Is it the learning that, you know, that Dorothy has? Is it some relationship to the wizard who is kind of a vulnerable wise figure? But, you know, it's all interesting stuff. So.
Yeah, and actually, but to that point, you're right. Some of the most interesting conversations we have with people are about what it is that's exciting. So, for example, Star Wars. I've talked to others who love Star Wars, but they're coming from a hero place.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that hero energy, which is not strong in me, is very strong in them, and so they might take the interesting things about Star Wars in a completely different direction than I do, because I'm all about the more of that magician wizard part of it.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting. My favorite movie actually is this movie called The King of Hearts, which is actually kind of an anti-war movie, but in the movie, actually some prisoners in World War II in an insane asylum come out and live the lives they'd always dreamed of in this deserted village. And they take on identities that kind of speak to who they are in their heart. Now, that's a part of the movie. The rest of the movie really is a statement about how war is, you know, hell, and they go back into the asylum and shut themselves away when people come back. But that's the part that gets me. And I realize now that's the part I really love, that invention part. But at any rate, let's give you guys a chance to do this for yourselves. So we're just playing around right now. So if you took the PVSI, you got a score. But as Dana has already said, most of us have 2 or 3 types that we really relate to. Your highest score could be the best type to drive your business, or it might not be. But for the purposes of this exercise, think about either your high score or pick one out of this chart that just the name of it. We don't have to tell you very much about these to conjure an idea, right? So, and of course, if you didn't take the PVSI, just pick one. So what I'd like you to do is, this is kind of about, why don't we try to find your best self right here. And complete the sentence. Choose a character and just do the following sentence. You know, as a, fill in what you are, lover. Just, I live to. As a, whatever, I live to. So jot that down. We'd love it if you know, some of the things that come up a little bit later, and you know, go back and share those if we can. But this is just your first exploration, and that I live to is a really important phrase, because what you live to do is a really important part of what other people are going to want from you. That, you know, you can think about that as your purpose. We're also going to talk in just a minute about your promise. Another thing I want to be clear about, people in the same profession can use any one of these archetypes. I haven't encountered a profession yet that couldn't use any one of these 12 to position itself. So, you know, we tend to get a lot of coaches who like this kind of work. If you're a coach, you could be a hero who helps people achieve their goals, right? You could be a caregiver who helps people develop their full potential. You could be an idealist who helps people bring their value systems to life. You know, you could be a jester who helps people kind of lighten up and live in the moments that they're experiencing. So it's really interesting how much room there is to play around with that. So why don't we go on?
I should say too, hey Cindy.
Yeah.
So first of all, and we also had Cassandra volunteer via email that she's both a caregiver and a sage, and that's an interesting combination.
That's a very interesting combination, and like without even talking to her, it gets kind of exciting for me because I can see somebody who like really believes in like human potential, but could also bring a lot of wisdom to helping someone develop that potential in them. I'm completely making that up, Cassandra. You might say, no, that's not it at all, but they work together, you know, and you would flavor a person who had a strong, let's say, idealist with a caregiver would look really different. So you get to play around with the nuances when you really start thinking about it. Yeah.
And those nuances, it's fun to do as a personal exercise, but when you start looking at it in the context of communicating about your business, certain things really come into.
Oh, definitely.
So, you know, you may realize that in your business, you're more the sage than the caregiver, which is what you're at home, or vice versa. So
exactly. So there's we're just giving you kind of the tip of the iceberg in terms of how to explore this. Then there's how do you turn it into what actually we're going to show you. Dana, I'm just going to real quickly go through these next couple of slides to let people know that so you got to have a platform. So remember we talked about find out who you are, and that's that great, discovery and self-exploration part of this. And then you can't just have the type. What you need to do next then is turn it into that storyline that we talked about. And then it becomes more of a strategy. It becomes the foundation on which you can base other things you do. So this is an example. We'll quickly, there's too many words up there in a webinar to spend time on it. But what's clear is that in a story, there's a quest, right? Something gets our protagonist out on the road, and there's a resolution that's needed and a happy ending. So you can put very strategic words to that framework to understand where you're going. So, so Dana's all about awakening other people, right, to this authentic internal power that they've got. Her promise is to help clients harness that so that they can create a better industry or organization or work life for themselves. So just because she's excited about awakening, the target audience is a little bit more interested in what happens at the end of that. Awakening's great, but I best have had something happen, right? So the promise is that she can help harness the power in some way, and then so that at the happy ending, they've actually transformed what's inside them into something that creates success and power on the outside. So you guys kind of see how that works. You've got to be able to then align what's powerful about you and turn it into a promise that somebody else cares for you to keep. Okay?
Yeah, and I would say, Cindy, too, when you asked on the earlier slide, what is it I live to blank?
Yeah.
Without looking at this slide again, I said, awaken others to their inner power. Right. The answer to that question turned out to be my purpose. So for all of you out there watching, you may already be tapping into your purpose as well.
Yeah. So if you want to go on to mine real quickly, I'm going to go just to the happy ending on this one because I've talked a fair amount. So my happy ending is that clients have defined and given voice to what's best about themselves, and they've gotten out what's most distinct and appealing about them. I'm promising to help them engage, inspire, and attract. So some people just want to express. That's what pure art is, but in the business world, the creativity's got to link up to something. I'm really helping you inspire and engage other people. As a business person, if you want to work with me, that's probably more compelling than just the idea of expression. Unless you're another creator like me, and then you'll express yourself, till the cows come home. But so why don't we talk just very quickly? I really just want to touch on this. All of this is built on the work of Dr. Carol Pearson. She developed the system that has these 12 personality profiles, and she's written lots of books. You know, some of them are out there. You probably have heard of her. About 10 years ago, I actually got to study with her for a year at Georgetown and learned the system. She's actually written a branding book as well with another branding consultant. But they hadn't really developed much in the way of like applications and tools for how other people could use it. So she became a mentor to me, and I've been able to, you know, spend the last 10, 12 years applying these concepts. The PVSI came out of that, and then this branding framework came out of that. So it's a big system. It's based on, you know, we'll tell you in a minute about a course that we have that you can learn a lot more about this. All of these storylines are based on what motivates people. That's why they're so powerful. Structures that we can talk about so that you really understand what is it that you're tapping into somebody. Are you, you know, appealing to their need to belong in the world, or to feel safe, or to accomplish something, all of that. And there are those 12 main story types, but there's also 60 subtypes. So this isn't like putting you in a little box where you're like everybody else. And Dana's already talked about that. I'm a creator type with an artisan subtype. I'd look really different if I had a innovator subtype. I'd probably be more about generating ideas. So a lot of this is just about what brings you to somebody else. And really, just real quickly, let me review again why you can't just decide my target audience wants X, so I'll go be that. You know, if you're a hero type, authentically, you're well equipped to help people overcome challenges. But if you're more driven by exploration, let's say, and helping people discover things, or you're more a lover type who wants to help people connect with the gifts they have, you're going to get burnt out on all that energy you have to put into trying to be the type that helps people accomplish things. So, Dana, why don't we move on to Q&A? We've been chatting for quite a while here.
Yeah, we have a couple of questions, and I wanted to take 1 second though and talk about that point you just made.
Yes.
As we're getting another question in here about alignment, because my bad hair day or my bad day, it was really about alignment. And when we work with people in this program, and I'm going to show you Diane in particular in just a minute, and then we're going to show you after the Q&A, we're going to show you Nancy's whole marketing visual platform that she created a website. She redid a lot of her marketing strategy. A lot of that work is in alignment, and when we're working with the entrepreneurs in this program, first of all, a lot of them work together, and it's really exciting as they kind of encourage each other and help each other tap into the, you know, what really resonates for them and their market. And it's amazing what can be accomplished in 5 weeks. It's absolutely amazing. And by one example of that, one of my favorites here is Diane, because she was so enthusiastic about it. She was flooding emails for a while because what she realized going through the program is she knew that, you know, she kind of was an explorer and she had this caregiver energy. But what she didn't realize until she went through the program and sort of the step-by-stepness of it when it comes to how to market herself was that she was taking this caregiver energy and putting it out in the world when in fact she was excited about being an explorer.
Right, yeah.
And even though we're going to show you what Nancy did, Nancy's a lover, and we're going to show you Nancy's visuals. What was so powerful to me about Diane's experience is it didn't take her 5 weeks. She turned on a dime because she doesn't have a big website. She's not about marketing materials. She's about networking and presenting herself. And so her big aha was going to her LinkedIn summary and completely rewriting it to be about this explorer energy. And it was the same. She helps other people, and as I think she's a coach. And so she went from being a "I'll take care of you" coach to a let me help you explore your life coach. And she says the minute she did that, she changed it on LinkedIn. She changed how she started talking to people about what she did. She said she felt this new energy coming from people that wanted to hire her or wanted to refer her. She said it was like overnight. It just happened. And it's all about this alignment. She still has a caregiver in her.
Oh, of course, yeah.
she aligned with that explorer energy, that's when things really started to happen. It didn't even take the 5 weeks on a new website and all that kind of stuff. So it's that alignment that's so important. So let's talk for a couple of minutes here. We have a couple of questions that have come in. And one we have heard before.
Okay.
Which is, okay, so I know I'm a every person, or I'm a ruler, or I'm a hero, or a caregiver. How does that really turn into marketing? And I just gave the example of Diane, who got aligned. Literally, it changed what she was saying about herself and how she's talking about herself in her LinkedIn summary. But for other people, it turns into totally different things. Cindy, you want to address that real briefly?
Well, we started to show you a little bit about what happened. So yeah, you decide kind of who you are. Then you decide you build that framework that we were talking about. The most important thing you can do for yourself really before you start applying it is to do those purpose and promise so that you know where you're headed with your brand. And then from there, you start writing key messages. You start looking at LinkedIn profiles. You start looking at all the ways you can apply the message kind of methodically. So what are the most important things that you're going to say about yourself to prove that you're that? So if I'm a creator in the branding world, I've promised to help you engage and inspire. Hopefully you get my passion, but can I really do that? Now I need to prove that I've got the goods. So I talk a lot about my creative and innovative tools because they are creative and innovative, and that's a big payoff. I also talk about all the design people that I've helped stimulate. I can show the things that I've done that are in that regard. If I were a hero in the same program, I would probably start with the results. Here's how I helped, this client exceed their goals by 65%. So you're looking to come up with messages and points about yourself that pay off that particular storyline, which are very, very different. And then you just weave it through all kinds.
Right. And actually, so this next question we got is really one we hear a lot. It's very important. I'm a lover, which is great. We're about to show you Nancy's lover platform, so you can see what one lover did with it.
Right.
I'm a lover. Should I only sell to other lovers?
That's a great question.
Yeah, the answer is no, but I'll let Cindy explain why.
Well, no, lovers might be attracted to you, so what you're trying to do is understand what is the target audience looking for. They don't have to be the same type as you to need it. They might sorely need that energy and be a ruler, and they need to release the tension of how they have to constantly be in charge and be leading. They may need somebody to come in and help them appreciate and connect with what's great about themselves, which is what a lover should do. So I will say that there are some natural affinities between the types, but what you're really looking for, you're looking to connect with that part in somebody else that needs that thing. Now, lovers do tend to be absolutely fair, that's just one example. Idealists love lovers. Magicians love lovers because it's all about different kinds of connection. So absolutely, there's usually I like to say there's 3 or 4 core types. The people, I'm a creator, explorers really love my work, magicians really love my work, but at some point, almost anybody, no matter what type they're living, might need to inspire or influence somebody else and want that energy from me. So I guess that's the shortest way to answer the question.
Yep. And that is really interesting to me as you're beginning to put your messages together, we have you go out and look at who some of your best customers are and try to figure out what types they are and why they're attracted to you and build that into your marketing material so that you're kind of putting that message out into the world, hey, if this is what you're looking for, come bring it here. It becomes an attraction force in your marketing. Absolutely works.
And in the course that we do, we definitely help people understand how to think about the mindset that their most important target audiences have. Yeah.
So let's look at Nancy here real briefly and show you her lover profile. So, Cindy, you worked with Nancy closest, so why don't you walk through it?
Sure. Well, so you guys, you can see the quote up there. What she'd been looking for was something that really differentiated her from others in her field. Now, what Nancy's work is a little bit similar to mine. She's really focused on culture building. She also does branding and communications work. And she brings the love. I wish she was on the call, because Nancy brings that alive more than like anybody I've probably ever met. What her challenge was, she didn't feel like she had understood what was most special about herself and how she built a platform around it. And in fact, what she shared with me was it kind of kept her building her marketing platform really around other people's strengths instead of her own, and she owned the company. So that was kind of our starting point when we started the exploration process. So let's take a look at where Nancy went with that. You go ahead and go on to the next slide, Dana. All right. So Nancy's type, definitely lover. And it's not about, you don't know about the storylines yet. It's not about romantic love. In a business, maybe there's a few product categories where it would be, but this is about motivating others to see and understand their own special potential, right? It's about forming very close bonds with others. And it's also about living with passion and enthusiasm and expressing gratitude and appreciation, these sorts of things. And that's kind of rare in the business world, right? And yet, if you think about the work that she's doing, she's helping people build communications brands and attract people to come to work for an organization. Look at her purpose. It's to stir passion and aliveness in every human soul. Well, that's a huge platform, but it's what draws people in, right? And then she gets to her promise. It's to ignite passion. Now, what better thing to do in a branding or a culture building exercise than to ignite passion for the place you are working or might go to work, inside and outside the organization. So she actually came up with this whole graphic system for herself with the hearts. See, there's all the people in a workplace, climbing that ladder into that space where they're passionate. And then you can go on to the next slide also, Dana. So she came up with, this is where we'll talk a little bit about what the key messages are. So we took a look at what her organization was doing and came up with 3 areas to talk about. The first is, again, since she's a communication company, it's all about humanizing expression for her. How are people going to connect with the messages? The next thing is, remember I talked about earlier how I had really creative and innovative tools? Nancy has very people-centric tools, which is what Lover's all about, connecting. The people part of her brand is going to be elevated higher than mine, right? And then it's also about energizing and engaging workforces. That's a collective. That's a group that needs to feel connected. So with her new website, she has messages on there like, have you ignited the passion within your organization? And Dana, we haven't even gotten to hit on thought leadership yet, but Dana invites everybody to think about, if you were starting a movement, what would your movement be? And for Nancy, it was, thank God it's Monday, right? She wants people to actually look forward to Mondays as much as they look forward to Fridays. And then that gets back to kind of solving the epidemic of disengagement. So those of you who follow that sort of thing know that, like, I don't know, I think it's the latest number, 70% of people in the workforce aren't even engaged with the jobs they have, which, that has a huge toll on productivity and results and performance and all the, the measurable stuff. So her focus on engagement, which is the lover story of connection, is really, really strong in her brand.
And we should say, too, that so as Nancy was working through this, you can see her visuals there with the heart and, you can see some of the visual themes going through below. This was all, like, once she tapped into this. She redid her whole website with these graphics that were expressing, this theme, her version of the lover theme.
Right.
And we want to just take a minute and explain kind of how the 5-part process works and what you do in 5 weeks, but then also what you do beyond that, because really the first few weeks are about, what is your your story type, and then maybe you'll get your full scores as soon as you sign up. You get your full scores, so you see where you scored on all 12. So like I was very high on magician, creator, and explorer, and everybody's top 3 is different. And the first few weeks are about really exploring that in depth and figuring out, well, where is your business archetype? You know, what you want to bring through your business. Getting to know your story, some of the things we showed you about, you know, your happy ending and your story-based purpose, how to connect that with what inspires your clients and who your clients tend to be, and then at the end we get into helping you give tools, literally worksheets, to create marketing materials. And this gets interesting because in the 5 weeks, you'll focus on the thing that you most need to do. So it might be a new website. It might just be your LinkedIn summary or your elevator pitch. And so, hey, Cindy, can you mute yourself for a second? Getting feedback.
Oh, sure.
So, so at the end of the 5 weeks, you have, like Diane, for her, it was that LinkedIn summary. It was that thing that she really, you know, needed to go out and start marketing. But then at the end, you've got a lot of materials you probably haven't had time to use. And what we find is that because we do quarterly calls, because we have all these workbooks and worksheets and discussion boards up online that you get access to, people are coming back to it, you know, for years. So it becomes a resource you can come back to online to pull down and say, wow, last year I didn't need a new website, this year I do. There's all the materials to help you walk through how to start, create, how to use this story branding system to really create what you need to get a new website. And when you are hiring outside people to do copywriting for you or websites or anything else, you've done so much of the work they really need. I mean, Cindy and I have both been in this business. We've been on the receiving end of people saying, oh, I need a new website, I need a new logo. Where do I start? And basically, you will have done most of the work they need to begin with by going through this system. And the other thing is, because we're doing quarterly calls now that walk through the basically the questions that come up in week 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5, then basically those are open. You can call in and get free marketing advice on those quarterly calls really all year long.
Yeah, Dana, so on those just to be clear about the quarterly calls, it's 5 weeks of live coaching calls, and we repeat it every quarter. So if you sign up for the course, you just enroll in the next set of calls to walk you through the program, and then you can also come back forever. That's right.
So it's basically free marketing advice forever.
Yeah.
From Cindy.
Well, as long as we live, maybe not forever, but hopefully a while.
Yep. And I just wanted to say there are some bonuses in there, which Cindy talked about a little bit. The thought leadership, we've had a lot of success with some people realizing they can be real thought leaders with their blogging or with their speaking, and taking this work they're doing to market themselves and going out with, like Nancy did, you know, thank God it's Monday, talking about that. What do you have to do to make your employees say, thank God it's Monday, and doing speeches on that and writing articles on that and getting recognition in your industry for your unique approach to these issues. We give you a social media identity workbook so you can take all this work you're doing into social media at the level that you want to. Not everybody needs to or wants to go in to the full Monty, so to speak, but we'll give you the tools to help you decide what you want to do and take it out into social media. And then finally, even though this is a marketing and branding program, you do have to sell. You do have to make pitches to customers. So we give you I call it the authentic pitching workbook that helps you put together simple, straightforward, authentic pitches to help you use all this work you've been doing in a sales situation. And we often get the question, you know, well, I'm not really a marketer. Should I just hire my marketer to come do this? And it really, this is meant for you. You can hire other people to do your marketing, develop pieces of it, but you have to understand, you know, the core value you're offering so you can explain it to them so they can be effective. And Laura, we loved how Laura kind of was like, hey, I know nothing about marketing, I'm not interested in marketing, and now I'm excited about marketing myself. And so don't think that you have to be a marketer or become a marketer to succeed with this. And we love Joan's quote here because, you know, she was really excited that not only did she tap into her sort of authentic marketing energy, which she had struggled with for a lot, but she loved all the forms. She's like, every time I have a new marketing material to come back to, I just go to the workbook and I flip to that section, and there's my formula for how to get going on it. So it is a great program. If you're on the web page, you can look down below to see when the next set of calls begin. And you can sign up anytime. As soon as you sign up, you'll get access to the materials and you can start working with it, and then you'll get email notifications when the next set of calls come up. So take a look below for when they come up, and you definitely want to sign up before the calls start, because you'll have much better questions and get more value out of the calls if you sign up, right away and begin working with the materials, and then use the calls to supplement that and get the free marketing advice. So we have some time for some more Q&A, and we have a couple of other questions that have come in. So I'm just going to very quickly, because we're pretty much here at the hour, we're just going to answer those questions and then sign off. But the question that we often get is, hey, if I sign up and I start and then I can't finish, can I come back to it? And the answer is absolutely. The material is there for you for really years. We've got people in the program now that have taken it several years ago, and they still come back and participate sometime. So the materials are there. We do these calls on a regular basis. So what I encourage you to do is go through it the first time to get that most urgent piece of marketing that you need. You need your new elevator pitch, or you have to update your LinkedIn summary, or you have to redo your about page or whatever, a new logo, tagline, do what's urgent, and then put a tickler on your calendar when we do these quarterly calls to come back and tackle something else and go down and keep bringing this energy that you're going to be tapping into in your marketing into more and more of your marketing pieces. So that's my recommendation to everybody, because once you get that energy, you get to tap into it, then the rest of your life, as long as you're flowing that energy into how you market your business, even as it evolves. We got one other question here that I wanted to bring up. Cindy, maybe you could handle this.
Okay.
Which is, what if I think I'm marketing okay? It works. I'm not real excited about it, but it seems to work. Is this really going to take me anywhere that I'm already not?
Well, if you're okay with it working, then I'd say sure. But if you think about the difference between being okay with something that just works and being really excited, and I was really happy yesterday. One of our former participants in the program sent a letter of recommendation on it to somebody else who said, and her last line in it was, I get a kick out of marketing now, which is nothing short of a miracle. So, it's up to you, but that seems more fun to me than just being okay with it. But the works, but excitement really is more of a magnet for other people.
Yep. And we did get another question here from Cassandra. Okay. Cassandra asks, but you still need a logo and an identity. I mean, can you need a logo and identity, I guess, is one question, and the other is, can the system help you create your identity if you're just in business for yourself?
Okay, actually, I hope that there wasn't a bunch of feedback or the screen froze a couple of times. I think the question was, can the program help you develop a logo? Was there more? I missed part of what you said.
That was part of it, a logo, but also a personal brand if you're basically just in business for yourself.
Oh, yeah. Most people who take this program are just in business for themselves. So it's like you're taking the power. Yeah, you can make yourself the centerpiece of it, and or you can use the energy of it to turn a company into the type. So either way, and the stuff that Dana does in particular about thought leadership puts you out there with a message. So that's really important too. And yeah, absolutely, there's prompts in the course that can help. And those came out of this process, but both of them did. To have a logo is a long and involved process. We both decided to, but we're kind of in a related business. What you need is a big idea. and a promise that people care about, and then you get to decide what materials are going to best support doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say I agree with that, and also that for people who are one-man bands, so to speak, or one-woman bands,
Yeah.
quite often I recommend that before you do a website, before you do anything else, you get your LinkedIn really set up to be
That's
like
right.
your website.
Yeah.
You want to point people at LinkedIn because it is multimedia. It does. You can link to websites or Facebook,
Right.
or whatever, but it has the content that really positions you professionally the way that you want to be positioned, and then from there you can go on. So while I agree it can be very valuable to have a logo, I wouldn't start there.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, because the logo does not communicate your value. By the other token, I will say, I think Cindy said this, which is many people who are individuals in their own business, meaning they're not going to grow to have 10 employees or 20 employees
Right.
or 100 employees. They just are themselves and represent themselves. In some ways, they benefit most from this program because they're not trying to market anything but themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Delving into, who am I really and what value do I really bring, it just flows straight out. So for small businesses and individuals, this is a very powerful program.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to put up the last slide here because I like the image so much that Cindy came up with when she was looking here. We really do want to help you. We really do know that the system works and works for everybody and brings you a lot of personal joy and aha and, oh, thank goodness, I'm finally getting aligned. But not only that, it takes it out into your business, into the world in a way that helps you build your business and be successful, which is why we're all doing this.
That's
so,
right.
Cindy, do you want to give some final words?
I think that's it. There's nothing that excites me more than helping people share their gifts. Because to me, that's why we go into business. Of course, we want to make a living. We want to be out in the world. But, at the end of the day, that's, the juice in life is getting yourself out there in a way that people really benefit from what you have to offer. And then it's a win-win proposition for everybody. So I never kind of stop being excited about that idea.
So if you have questions, you can always email me, Dana at InPowerCoaching.com. All the information that you need about the course is either on the page below or there's a link to learn more, which is also up here on the screen. And we've got some calls starting soon because we do these pretty regularly. And we really hope that you get in, get your feet wet with it, come up with questions, start posting them on the discussion boards, and then come to the live coaching calls ready to, put it all into action. And we look forward to helping you do that.